With repeated alcohol bans brutally enforced by the military, I could hope for no better example than the lockdown in South Africa. The only Draconian intervention presented earlier was presented in the second part of this series, and that was the National Influenza Immunization Program. I was left with the challenge of finding more the like, that is, indisputably draconian interventions to be tested for angular transit of the 11th harmonic sun to the Pluto or Saturn-Pluto midpoint of the pandemic solar eclipse. The rigor of only taking examples from places of origin of potential pandemics would have to be abandoned. But I felt that using the South African interventions as extreme draconian ones is supported by at least two circumstances. One, that the South African Supreme Court ruled the ongoing alcohol prohibitions were irrational. Add to that on one occasion, the South African National Defense Force assaulted a man to the verge of a soon-to-occur death due to possession of alcohol. So, from those indications and the systematic observation of developments under lockdown, I singled out the most extreme of draconian interventions. It became evident that alcohol-related interventions of three pivotal types had occurred. First, total ban on alcohol, which involves either transport or sales. That occurred 2 times in the first half of 2020, as the 27th of March commenced. The South African lockdown was introduced, but it did not confirm with the hypothesis. However, if we turn to the time when the total ban was effectively reintroduced, the 13th of July at 9 a.m., then we do see a confirmation of the hypothesis, with this transiting sun angularly triggering the Saturn-Pluto midpoint of the Boxer Day eclipse. Then we have what would be the easing of those total bans. What remained of those is explained by the South African Minister of Police.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there is no movement of alcohol. If it is not bought, then it can't be moved.
Restriction is still being enforced, and there were 2 examples of that. One, on the 1st of June at 9 a.m., stores selling alcohol were opened. The lines for this occasion, as seen, were very long, and the hypothesis was confirmed. The sun is triggering Pluto of the 11th harmonic eclipse. The same occurs at the same time on the 17th of August. Again, the 11th harmonic sun is triggering Pluto. Finally, there was the assault by the South African National Defense Force, which cost one man his life, and this due to his possession of alcohol. Listen to his wife.
It was around past 5 to 6. They dragged him to the house. It was only 1 beer in the fridge. They took both of them outside on the street. They called backup. It was only 2 soldiers by that time. But after they called backup, it was a quantum full of soldiers. That's where they started beating them.
While the Johannesburg Metropolitan Police looked on. Just a couple or few hours later, Collin Khosa would be dead in his home due to blunt force trauma against the head. We do have a confirmation of the hypothesis with this transiting sun angularly triggering the Saturn-Pluto midpoint. Also note that on this occasion, transiting Mars joins the triggering of the Saturn and Pluto midpoint of the eclipse. Considering that there was blood spilt on this occasion by the military, this is a perfect addition to the triggering by the sun, which is an organizational principle. Thus, having collected a test group of 6 occasions, it is possible to do a Barnard's test. Let's enter the data in an empirical testing against a group of random times for each instance in the test group. 3 random instances were generated which provided the control group, which is in the first column, of the 2 times 2 contingency table. We find that 3 of 18 cases fit the transit activation. Is to be compared with the second column, which is the test group. As seen earlier, the test group tested against the far extreme of the model is rather overwhelming. We had 5 of 6 which fit the hypothesis. Only 1 did not fit. This is an inverse distribution, so it should not come as a great surprise that the probability for these 2 groups to be the same is very small. In fact, it's far under 0.5%. Fundamentally, the test group is not random. And that shows us that the far extreme of the model works diagnostically and presumably prognostically. The intention here has been fulfilled, that is, to evidence the working of the model of trans-Neptunians in Draconian intervention. One more comment should be that there is a noteworthy difference where the triggering of Pluto was occurring, contrary to where the triggering of the Saturn-Pluto midpoint was occurring. When the severity of the bans on alcohol were lessened somewhat, there was a triggering of Pluto. And when the ban was made more severe, or when a man was assaulted to death due to alcohol possession, we're not dealing purely with Pluto. There, it is the Saturn-Pluto midpoint which is being triggered. And this circumstance is quite fitting if one recognizes that the influence of Saturn will involve a more constriction-oriented intervention. And indeed, that is what more severe prohibitions and immediate blood justice, or injustice in this case, involves. So, interesting details in this one, and though not empirically tested, these details do suggest that the model could be made more elaborate with the Saturn Pluto midpoint being the higher gear of any given Draconian strategy. Also, perhaps, more generally, we would have the Saturn and whatever trans-Saturnian midpoint above the baseline of just the trans-Saturnian. Before ending, I should add one technical detail regarding the use of an eclipse chart in an area that is not at the origin or the source of a pandemic. It should in advance be checked normally if the eclipse chart reverberates with the effective national chart, as there was an utter extreme of draconian measures. In one country, it was easy just to assume, and I did assume correctly, that the eclipse chart would have strong connections with the national chart. I will dedicate another video exploring the Republic of South Africa national chart and how it resonates with the Boxer Day eclipse. Hopefully this has been enlightening, and in the next installment I hope to do my best with the run through it strategy. Another video to continue this series, and I hope you enjoyed.